evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll call the meeting to order and welcome to the regular City Council meeting of June the 8th, 2020. And to those watching at home via Rogers Cable or tuned in some other way, this is our first opportunity since the COVID pandemic broke out several months ago that our first sense of getting back to a sense of normalcy. We have 12 of our 13 with us. One is remote tonight. So this is the first time we're all back in the council chambers. For those watching, many of our staff, some of our staff are here, many of our staff are remote via Zoom, but this is the first step back. We are spread out in different directions here. We have our 6+ feet of social distancing. So those watching, you can see that people might not be in their normal seats, but the New Brunswick legislature has been doing this for a while, and this is our first attempt. We could have done it a bit earlier, I think, but there was a few technology challenges that our staff rose to the occasion and got us up and going. So the meeting is called to order. We'll begin with a reading by our poet laureate, Jenna Lynn Albert. Jenna Lynn.
Thank you, Your Worship. June marks International Pride Month. And this month we have also seen the Black Lives Matter movement have protests across the globe. For those of you unfamiliar with the Black Lives Matter movement, it is an international human rights movement originating from within the African American community. And it campaigns against violence and systemic racism towards Black people. This evening I'll be reading a poem by Danez Smith, a Black, queer, non-binary, HIV-positive writer and performer from St. Paul, Minnesota. Summer, somewhere. Somewhere, a sun. Below, brown boys brown as rye, play the dozens and ball, jump in the air and stay there. Boys become new moons, gum dark on all sides. Beg bruise blue water to fly, at least hide, at least spit back a father or two. I won't get started. History is what it is. It knows what it did. Bad dog, bad blood, bad day to be a boy, color of a July well spent. But here, not earth, not heaven, we can't recall our white shirts turned ruby gowns. Here there's no language for officer or law, no color to call white. If snow fell, it'd fall black. Please don't call us dead. Call us alive someplace better. We say our own names when we pray. We go out for sweets and come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna Lynn, and very appropriate reading. We had a vigil rally at City Hall last Tuesday, extremely well attended by the community, organized by the community, and I want to commend everybody for the bringing that together in short order and the passion they brought to it. And there was a meeting, they rallied at City Hall, marched throughout the downtown, come back to City Hall. And it was a very powerful learning moment. I attended. I did not participate in speaking. That was my own choice because I was there as mayor to learn and listen and be supportive. A couple of nights later, there was a similar rally at the legislature. And I don't think there was a march involved with that, but again, organized by people within our own Black community. And again, a powerful teaching moment for anybody that was there. So well done, everybody. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us to pay very close attention to this. We all come with our own bias, and we can all learn and do better. So kudos to those that brought it together, and kudos to those for the great respect that they showed to each other. And there was a bit of criticism. I received some for being there with a crowd of 400 or 500. Everybody did their absolute best to keep the distance. Masks were being passed out, and the vast majority of people were as respectful as they could on the social distancing. But in moments like this, sometimes you have to be able to rally as a community and not take a chance. But it's worth the. I think it's worthwhile for the community to gather in moments like this to learn and listen. So well done, and thanks for that poem, Jenna Lynn, very appropriate. Does anybody have, Deputy or City Clerk's agenda, any changes?
Thank you, Worship. We have an addition with Council's consent, 9.2 Officer Square Archaeological Assessment Agreement.
All right, that be as item 9.2. So that be moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Keenan, that be added to the agenda. All those in favor? Councillor Price? Yes, okay. And there was none against. Motion's carried. Does anybody have a conflict of interest to declare on any of the items before us tonight? Being none, we'll move on. So the consent agenda. There's two items on the consent agenda. One is a proclamation that I think it might be the Frederick Edmonton Brunswick Kidney Association's asked to say a few words, and if I could read it on our behalf, but we'll do that on the once the motion is put on the floor. So that be moved by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor McGarity, that the consent agenda be passed. So on the question, I don't think anybody wanted to remove any of the items. I'll just speak to the, okay. The item 5.1 was the proclamation for World Kidney Cancer Day. Whereas, and first of all, I should say, I'll ask Karen Ross, I think from the New Brunswick Kidney Association. Karen, if you're with us, maybe you could say a few words.
Karen, if you could unmute your microphone.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mayor O'Brien and councillors. Thank you for allowing the time for me to convey our message. 10 years ago, if you were diagnosed with any cancer, you'd probably be told to rest and do as little physical activity as possible. Today, you're more likely to be told the opposite. Studies now confirm the beneficial role that regular physical activity plays a part in both the prevention and treatment of many common cancers, which is why the theme for this year's World Kidney Cancer Day on June 18th is "We need to talk about physical activity." The evidence supporting the benefits of physical activity is growing every day, says Dr. Rachel Giles, chair of the International Kidney Cancer Coalition. But currently, 3 out of 4 kidney cancer patients aren't doing even the recommended minimum, and with half doing no physical activity. Studies show being physically active can reduce your risk of kidney cancer by 22%. If you've been diagnosed with kidney cancer, even moderate physical activity can improve treatment outcomes up to 15%, as well as reduce cancer-related fatigue, anxiety, depression, and improve overall quality of life. Exercising 3 times a week for 30 minutes is considered moderate physical activity and can be life-changing. A recent International Kidney Cancer Coalition showed that 96% of kidney cancer patients worldwide experience psychological problems. My husband David loved to walk, run, and bike every day whenever he was able. He used to say it helped keep his general health mentally, physically, and emotionally. Whatever age, whatever the stage, being as physically active as your condition allows and your body will tolerate can bring far-reaching benefits. Even just a few minutes here and there will make a difference. Starting a physical activity plan is never easy, and having cancer doesn't make it any easier. As a general rule, you should exercise only as much as your condition allows and your body will tolerate. If you are moving your joints, stretching your muscles, and raising your heartbeat, it is doing you good. The face of this year's World Kidney Cancer Day campaign is Dr. Linda Trin from the University of Toronto, a world leader on physical activity and cancer. Across a series of campaign videos, Dr. Trin talks about how physical activity can make a huge difference to both kidney cancer prevention, improving the treatment outcomes and quality of life for those who have it. Please visit Kidney Cancer Canada, Cancer du Rhin Canada, at www.kidneycancercanada.ca for Dr. Trin's informative videos and to download the free comprehensive physical activity guidebook created by Dr. Trin and her colleagues titled Get Active, Sit Less. We want you to know that Kidney Cancer Canada, Cancer du Rhin Canada, continues to remain open during the COVID-19 pandemic to help inform and support kidney cancer patients, their families, and caregivers. If you know of someone who has recently been diagnosed with kidney cancer or someone who is living with kidney cancer, please tell them about us. We are here to help. You can reach us at 1-866-598-7166 or at info@kidneycancercanada.ca. Thank you for listening, and please stay well.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciate that. I'll read the proclamation. Whereas the International Kidney Cancer Coalition has declared Thursday, June 18th, 2020 to be World Kidney Cancer Day, and whereas Kidney Cancer Canada is affiliated with the above mentioned organization, and whereas Kidney Cancer Canada, Cancer du Rhin Canada, is a national community of patients, caregivers, and health professionals who work to provide every Canadian touched by kidney cancer with support, education, and advocacy for their care pathways and treatment. And whereas Kidney Cancer Canada, Cancer du Rhin Canada, is the only Canadian national charitable patient and caregiver organization solely focused on kidney cancer. Therefore, as mayor, I proclaim June the 18th, 2020 as World Kidney Cancer Day in Frederick. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor O'Brien, and good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Thank you. Good night.
Good evening.
Good night.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please cast your vote. It's been passed. Thank you. So we'll move on to approval of the minutes of regular city council meeting of March 23rd, 2020. Moved by Councillor Millet, seconded by Councillor Rogers. On the question? All those in favor of the motion? Against? Motion is carried. I don't think there was any against, but it was carried. Right. 7.1, bylaw L11-169. Councillor Erickson, would you take that? Stop up and close a portion of Dunn's Crossing Road.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Hi, thank you. The Office of City Clerk has not received any
Sorry.
hearing of objection or support.
Just testing you. Thank you.
How do we do? Moving on to the resolution, be it resolved that bylaw number L-11.169, a bylaw to stop up and close a portion of Dunn's Crossing Road, be given first reading by title.
The seconded by Councillor Dara. On the question? All those in favor of the motion? Those against? None against. Carry on, please.
Be it resolved that bylaw number L-11.169, a bylaw to stop up and close a portion of Dunn's Crossing Road, be given second reading by title.
Seconded by Councillor Dara. On the question? All those in favor of the motion? Those against? Motion is carried. We'll move on to item 8.1, bylaw Z5-191, 301 Woodstock Road zoning amendment. Councillor McDermott.
Thank you, Your Worship. Be resolved that terms and conditions be adopted.
Be seconded by Councillor Chase. On the question? All those in favor of the motion? Those against? Motion is carried. Carry on.
Be it resolved, the bylaw number Z 5.191, a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z5 zoning bylaw for the city of Frederick be read by summary pursuant to section 15 subsection 4 of the Local Governance Act.
Seconded by Councillor Chase. On the question? All those in favor of the motion? Those against? Motion is carried. Carry on.
Whereas municipalities may make bylaws pursuant to the Local Governance Act, now therefore be it enacted by the Council of the City of Fredericton and pursuant to the authority vested in it by Section 10 of the Local Governance Act, SND 2017, Chapter 18, summarized as follows. The purpose of proposed bylaw number Z5.191 is to amend bylaw number Z5 under the residential zone 2 in order to permit a personal service appearance on property located at 301 Woodstock Road, and be it resolved the bylaw number Z5.191, a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z5, zoning bylaw for the city of Fredericton, be given third reading by title.
Seconded by Councillor Chase. On the question? All those in favor of the motion? Those against? Motion is carried. 8.2, bylaw Z5-192, 900 St. Mary Street rezoning for Timco Property Services. Councillor Price, you with us?
I'm here, Your Worship. Thank you very much. Be it resolved that terms and conditions be adopted.
Be seconded by Councillor Keenan. On the question. All those in favor of the motion? Those against? Motion is carried. Carry on, Councillor Price.
Thank you, Worship. Be it resolved, the bylaw Z5-192, a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z5, the zoning bylaw for the city of Fredericton, be read by summary pursuant to section 15(4) of the Local Governments Act.
Seconded by Councillor Keenan. On the question. All those in favor of the motion? Those against? Motion is carried. Councillor Price.
Whereas municipalities may make bylaws pursuant to the Local Governments Act, now therefore being enacted by the City Council of Fredericton and pursuant to the authority vested in Section 10 of the Local Governments Act, SNV 2017, Chapter 18, summarized as follows. Purpose of proposed bylaw number Z5.192 is to amend bylaw number Z5 by rezoning the property located at 900 St. Mary Street from Business Industrial Zone Holding B1H to Business Industrial Zone BI in order to permit a warehouse. And be it resolved that bylaw number Z5.192, a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z5, a zoning bylaw for the city of Fredericton, be giving third reading by title.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Keenan. On the question. All those in favor of the motion? Those against? The motion is carried. We'll move on to other matters. 9.1, an update on summer aquatics by Dave Seabrook, our Director, Recreation, Tourism, and Community Engagement. Mr. Seabrook.
Thank you, Your Worship. See if I can. We have a presentation tonight. Perhaps the clerk could put that up.
We're about to. Just, there we go.
Thank you.
Whoops. Wrong one, but close enough.
Okay. Tonight, we're here to give council an update on summer aquatics. It's a very challenging environment for us to work in this summer from a COVID-19 perspective. As we presented last week, we'll go to the second slide. As we presented last week, we have confirmed opening of a number of facilities. Our Fredericton Indoor Pool opened today. Our Killarney Lake Beach will have a full opening with lifeguards June 21st. And our outdoor pool facilities will open June 21st. And that includes our facilities at Henry Park, Marysville, Royal Road, Queen Square, and Queen Square. Now, of course, all of these openings are dependent on current directives from the province of New Brunswick in terms of its phasing. But currently we're in a full yellow phase, and that would allow us to open these facilities. So we're very pleased that we've developed operational plans. All those operational plans have gone through our EOC Safety Committee, our Emergency Operations Safety Committee. However, as we talked about last week, there'll be a new way of operating and approaching our pools. So the next slide, I just wanted to reiterate some of that for everyone. We're encouraging everyone to wear their bathing suit to the pool. That will eliminate the amount of time in and around locker rooms and touch surfaces and minimize potential for infection. We will have people lining up outside and limiting the number of people in the pool and limiting the number of people transiting from the outside onto the pool deck. You'll be able to book your time online, and there'll be an express lane for those people that have booked swim times in advance. At our outdoor pools, that's free, but you still can book your time online in advance and get in an express lane that'll allow you to move through quickly. Obviously, we'll be maintaining physical distancing in all our facilities, and our goal is to reduce time and touch in our locker rooms. There'll be complete sanitizing of the facilities between programs, and we're able to offer lessons, lap swims, and free swims through the summer. So very pleased that we've been able to do that with those facilities. So now I wanted to introduce our approach to some more difficult aquatics facilities, and I'll start with our wading pools. So we have 9 locations of wading pools. This summer, they will remain closed. We really have no ability to ensure physical distancing. There's a very young user population that makes it particularly difficult to maintain social distancing. Sanitizing of these facilities is difficult. And there's a high density of usage on hot days, making it difficult to maintain physical distancing. And there's no usage at other times. You know, we have a concern, if we were to staff these facilities throughout the summer, we have a concern that we'd be putting very young staff, you know, in their 16, 17, 18 years old in some difficult situations. We did look at the potential of staffing these wading pools with 2 staff on site at each pool from June 21st to August 29th, from 10 in the morning till 7 p.m. That carried a cost of over $150,000. So we certainly recognize that these are very important facilities for families. It's a very difficult decision to make that we won't be operating them this summer. But based on the challenge to operate them safely and the high cost of staffing, we won't be filling those wading pools this year. And we feel basically that the resources that we would require are better served to, are better used to serve a wider population, or wider user population, more diverse population at the Fredericton indoor pool and at Killarney Lake and our 4 outdoor pools. However, we certainly realize how valuable those wading pools are, particularly to young families. So we've done some extra thinking about how we may be able to adapt our outdoor pools and prioritize wading pool usage. So each of our 4 outdoor pools has a shallow area with a splash feature. They have what's called 0 grade entries, so that when you begin to enter the water, you know, there's no step down. You could bring for instance, you could bring a wheelchair into the pool if necessary. So it's called a 0 grade entry. And these areas have splash features, which are high touch surfaces. And we don't particularly want people using those high touch surfaces this summer. So we made a decision that we'll close off those splash features in those areas, and we will create a wading pool environment when the pool is open. So this would be during both recreational swims, when things are quite busy, that these splash areas would turn into wading pools for young families and families with special needs children. And not just children, special needs folks. And also during quieter lap swims when really it would be a much quieter environment and appropriate for certain users. So in order to provide families with those opportunities, we will be able to compensate somewhat for the closure of our 9 wading pools with these facilities in our outdoor pools this summer in the 4 outdoor pools. So I really want to compliment our recreation staff and Michelle Horncastle, our manager, and our head of our pool and aquatics programs, Adam Munn, for coming up with this solution. I'm really pleased that we're able to serve the public in some fashion, something akin to a wading pool environment. So, moving on, the next facility that we want to inform you about is what we're going to do about the Wilmot splash pad. And I just want to take a minute or a second to look at this image quite closely that we have on the screen here. And obviously on a hot day, this is a very well-used facility. a lot of people, a lot of young people, and a lot of high touch surfaces. So this is a particularly difficult decision for us. And if we go to the next slide. So splash pads are allowed to operate by the province of New Brunswick, but only if they adhere to crowd gathering and 2-meter distancing, physical distancing. And quite frankly, we can't reasonably assure that we can maintain physical distancing. So we feel we can't risk opening these. So the Wilmot splash pad will remain closed for this summer. It's virtually impossible to maintain social distancing. We have a very young user group at the splash pad, many high touch surfaces, and those surfaces aren't saturated with chlorine and water the way that the pools are. And in addition to that, we have apparatus in the facilities that in the splash pad facility that creates gathering points, which also creates a higher level of risk. It's difficult to create a perimeter and limit the gatherings inside and outside the splash pad. So I just want to show you that we did go through a number of scenarios trying to determine if we could operate the splash pad this summer. It was certainly our aspiration to come up with a model where we could use the splash pad this summer. So, you know, we looked at staffing up the splash pad, limiting the number of users to 50 as per provincial directives, create 45 minutes time segments, and then have 15 to 30 minutes where we could sanitize the facility. But given the user population, we really felt that there's really no way to prevent close contact amongst the users. And limiting crowds on a hot day inside a perimeter would basically create an unmanageable situation outside the perimeter as people were waiting. So if we go to the next slide, so we looked at basically two models of how we considered two models on how we potentially could operate the splash pad. One was a low control, what I call a low control model. We had where there would be no perimeter, but we'd have 2 staff monitoring physical distancing. We feel that this would take us well beyond the provincial COVID-19 directives for physical distancing and crowd gathering. No ability to control the crowd, no ability to control physical distancing, potential for hundreds of people to gather on a warm day, and it would really put young staff in an unworkable situation. So then we considered a perimeter-based model where we would install, say, a 6-foot fence or an 8-foot fence using the city's special event fencing. Of course, that's not being used this summer because we have very few special events due to COVID-19. In that scenario, our fire department, our regulations require that there would be 4 ingress egress points for a perimeter of this size, 1 primary entrance point, 1 primary exit point. We would have to put a staff person on each entry exit point and have an additional 2 staff for monitoring physical distancing and sanitizing the facility inside the splash pad area. And still, when we looked at that, we really felt that there was still no assurance reasonably that we could maintain physical distancing inside the perimeter, given the young age of the user group. Many in that population are young enough that they actually don't have the ability to read signage and follow that kind of direction. We felt the potential of creating significant lineups outside the perimeter, as I mentioned, on hot days would mean that there was no ability to really control in a real way physical distancing, and the potential for hundreds of people to gather and inside the facility have these high touch surfaces, again, putting young staff in an unworkable situation. We looked at the staffing model that would go from June 21st to August, probably, actually, I think it's mid-August when that would, no, August 29th. That's approximately $50,000. Again, we feel that those resources could be better used to a more diverse population at our Killarney Lake, the Fredericton Indoor Pool, and our 4 outdoor pools. So we'll go to the next slide. So both myself as Director of Recreation and Dylan Gamble, our Director of Engineering and Operations, we both feel the plan is too risky. The potential for close contact is too great, too much high-touch equipment, physical distancing is not possible, and as I mentioned, putting young staff in difficult situations. So with that, we've made the decision not to operate the splash pad this summer. I will note that I think Moncton is going to operate some smaller splash pads. One of the reasons they're going to take that approach is that they have a number of splash pads and they believe that they can disperse that population through a number of facilities. We only have one splash pad and it's a destination splash pad, and everybody who's interested in that type of facility gathers in that one place. So that's why it's a particularly problematic facility for us. It's certainly not a decision we made lightly, and certainly not a decision we're comfortable with by any stretch of the imagination. But we believe that it's the right decision in terms of keeping our community safe this summer. But it is definitely unfortunate. We'll continue to monitor the COVID-19 directives from the province. If the directives change or the situation changes, staff will continue to review this decision, but that's the decision we're taking now and anticipate that'll be the case for the summer. Just to end the presentation on recreation facilities, I can give you an update on a couple of positive notes. One is that the lawn bowling facility and the operational plan by the lawn bowling club was approved by our EOC. I think it was this morning, and we expect them to start operations either this week or next. So that's positive. We're able to get the lawn bowling facility open. And secondly, beach volleyball, the operational plan from our recreational staff to operate our 4 courts at Willie O'Ree was passed by our safety committee of our EOC this morning. We will open for unscheduled play on June 15th and for scheduled play on June 22nd. And people will be requested to bring their own hand sanitizer. And like all our other facilities, we'll be monitoring lawn bowling and beach volleyball, along with our pools and our beaches and our parks throughout the summer, and ensuring that people are maintaining physical distancing. So with that, I'd take any questions from council, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not a question, just a comment. I just want to thank Dave and the staff for all their effort to get us to this point to open up some of the facilities. I think it would have been easily done and understandable if we would have just closed everything. They worked extremely hard to open a certain amount of facilities to try and appease as many people as possible. And they obviously put a significant effort into trying to open everything up, and that's just not possible. So I just want to thank them for all their effort.
Thank you. Councilor McGarity.
Very quickly, I think it's the onus also has to be on the users of those facilities to do the right thing, social distance, and make sure they sanitize. The city can only do so much. So the success of these programs will depend on the users and doing the right thing. Thank you.
Councilor Malay.
Thank you, Your Worship. Glad to see the beach court nets are going up. I know they went up, I think by mistake earlier or late last week. Were taken down, but I'm glad they're coming back up. On the pools, glad to see that we'll be able to open some facilities. I think some of the changes that we made over the last X amount of years paid off. It's more user friendly for a wide variety of users. Glad that you mentioned, Dave, that if directive change from the province staff will review some of those facilities. I'd like to just keep in mind that a year goes by really quickly, and we don't know where we'll be in a year from now. So I think as council and when budget time comes, you gotta keep in mind, because we were all caught by surprise this year. But if the situation is similar next year, it'd be nice to have possibly some funds, find a way to have some of those facilities open.
Thank you. Okay, again, thanks, Dave and team. I know that hurt for you to bring those recommendations forward or those directives forward, and they're hard to hurt for us to hear. But as been said by some of the teammates here tonight, I know you put a lot of effort into doing your best to see if there was a way to save the season. We could in some we can't, and people understand. These are different. These are uncharted times for us, and but we'll all get through this and keep monitoring it. If there's, like I say, if there's an opportunity to something before the season's over, we might be able to do it. But if not, we know we gave it our best shot. So thank you. We're moving on to item 9.2, and that is the Officer Square Archaeological Assessment and Agreement. And we're going to have Sean Lee, our Assistant Director of Engineering, Roadway Engineering Services. If I got your title wrong, Sean, I apologize.
Thank you, Your Worship. No, that's correct.
Okay.
I guess, Your Worship and members of council, so tonight we're bringing forward an agreement with the province of New Brunswick on the archaeological assessment of Officer Square. So this is an important milestone in the Officer Square project. What will happen is, as we're doing our work on the exterior wall this summer, the province of New Brunswick will have archaeologists doing an assessment on the interior of Officer Square. And they'll be doing it to identify any archaeological resources that are in there. And we'll then be working with them on the next steps of Officer Square to mitigate any of the key archaeological resources. And I'll just share a screen with you right now, just showing the map where they're going to be and how they're going to be doing their archaeological assessment. So essentially, here's a map of Officer Square. And within the map, they've identified several areas named as A, B, B, C, D, and they represent different types of test pits. So these will be archaeological test pits done by archaeologists for the province of New Brunswick. And essentially they are on grid, about a 5-meter grid, and most of them are 50 centimeter deep test pits. They've done some extensive ground penetrating radar already in the square to identify where some of the key archaeological resources are, and they'll be doing some additional test pitting around those resources. Of particular note, the A1 and A2 test pits will be a little bit deeper because our project goes a little bit deeper in these locations. So this area up here in kind of the northwest of the square and the southwest of the square, there'll be some deeper test pits in those locations. So overall, this is a good news story. It is a collaboration between us and the province of New Brunswick. And it will see work happening in June, July, and August of this summer. And the idea is it'll be a full archaeological dig going on in Officer Square. The province will be covering the cost of this work. And then we'll be moving forward to Indigenous consultation in the fall. With that, maybe I'll open up to any questions.
Thank you, Sean. Any questions to Sean? No? Okay. Perhaps, Sean, you could mention, although it's not part of this agreement, the work that will be going on with the perimeter wall.
Yes, Your Worship. So this summer, our intention is to move ahead with the wall work. So we have work planned for the corner of St. Anne's Point and Queen Street. This is the work that's going to be very critical to saving the trees that are on the corner. So what we will be doing is basically building bridge beams under the ground or on top of the ground, spanning over the tree roots for the big elm trees, and then connecting to the existing wall sections. Once that work is done, then we'll move to cladding and basically putting the sandstone cladding back on the wall. So we'll be installing the pillars, the balustrade or the lower coping stones, and then put the sandstone balustrade back together. And then once all of that work is done, we'll also do the central staircase. So there's a new staircase going in. And then we'll return the 104th Regiment monument back to the center of the staircase, so into a prominent location. Then as we move through the fall, we'll reinstate the metal railings that are part of the overall wall of Officer Square. So our work will be focusing on the exterior of Officer Square, essentially the southern wall system and the eastern wall system. And the province will be focused on the interior of Officer Square with their archaeological assessment work this summer.
Thank you. Okay, there is a motion. Councillor Chase.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'll move the resolution.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Grandy. And the resolution is to move forward with the agreement with the province for the assessment. So yeah, moved and seconded. Any further questions? If not, all those in favor of the motion? Those against? The motion is carried. That's the end of the formal agenda. So we'll move a motion to adjourn. That'd be Councillor Peter, second by Councillor Price. All those in favor? It's unanimous. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.